Hey there, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another random review. This time it is of the 1976 film All the President's Men. Now, I know this is not the typical film I review. Usually I review action and horror movies because those are my two favorite genres, but I also enjoy many types of comedies, mysteries, dramas. For example, I love The Shawshank Redemption. I love reviewed that film. It's a favorite of mine. And I also enjoy films like this. Saw this film way back in the day, grabbed the DVD. I have to assume this film's on Blu-ray. I wonder how good it looks on Blu-ray. This is a flick that was a big box office success when it came out and was nominated for quite a few Academy Awards, including Best Picture, but it lost to Rocky, which makes sense to me. I mean, I'm a big Stallone fan. Rocky's a classic. But this is also a classic. Now, of course, this is based on the true story of two reporters for the Washington Post uncovering the conspiracy of the Watergate scandal, where Richard M. Nixon, the president at the time, knew about these people of higher acts of power, chief of staff, attorney generals, things of that nature, where they would burglarize and bug, set up surveillance that was illegal, perhaps sabotaging Democratic campaigns even a year before Watergate, all sorts of stuff. Now, of course, how 100% true everything is, I mean, with many adaptations, there's always embellishment, but this is still a very effective, interesting, and intriguing story. And this reviewer mentions it's sort of a detective story, and I can see that. Now, you're not going to this film for car chases, fist fights, things of that nature, and that's fine with me, because it didn't need that. It's still a very well-told story. Well directed by Alan J. Pakula. Now, that's the same director who would go on to direct The Pelican Brief with Julia Roberts and Denzel Washington. Now, Robert Redford was a big fan of this idea. He was the guy who helped propel the project into being made. At one point, they wanted Al Pacino for this role, but then they got Dustin Hoffman. Would have been interesting to see Al Pacino in that role, but Dustin Hoffman did a wonderful job. And I think both these guys do a great job as Woodward and Bernstein, the two reporters. Supporting cast, you have Martin Balsam. That's the guy who was the detective in the original Psycho with the famous shot of falling down the stairs. Jack Warden, who some people may recognize him from Problem Child 1 and 2. You have Jason Robards, who actually won an Academy Award for this, and he did a great job. I really liked his character. Just the first chunk of the film, he seems like the grouchy editor of the paper, but then as the film goes on, he gets more and more likable, and you realize that he really is an ally for these two guys. And he does care for these two guys, does care for wanting to push them forward and to continue in their investigation. And some familiar faces and small roles. Ned Beatty, who was in Deliverance, among many other films. He has a small role among other actors and actresses. Now, the film is 2 hours and 18 minutes and didn't bother me at all. Usually, like, oh, I don't know about the pacing, but even rewatching it again, I was interested from the first minute to the last. And it's kind of useless for me to go into detail because a lot of it is the investigation. The entire film is the investigation angle, where starts out with seeing footage of Richard Nixon, and then one of the things the movie does well is the usage of music, meaning it's very little, sparingly used. I think that was effective. Because a lot of times people don't know how to handle music, or it's handled very overbearing, over the top. Very little usage of a musical score. And then when it does, it's low key. And I think the I say silence, but it's the dialogue and the natural sound effects of the environment was key to this. I don't know, it made it feel a bit more real, a bit more natural, and also just interesting and unique. Because there's not many films that use music that sparingly as this film does, and I thought that was a good choice. I thought the director gave some really nice shots. There's a scene where these two characters are looking through these slips at a library, and the shots above them, and it keeps panning back, and then it dissolves and panning back more and more, and revealing more of the room, and these characters being smaller and smaller. Some good looking shots of that nature. And I think the best part of this movie was that it's entirely focused on the investigation, where from the beginning, all these guys got arrested at this place called Watergate, and they were involved with the CIA. And when they're at the trial and they mention that, Robert Redford's there, he's like, holy shit. And just the uncovering of more and more stuff in this gradual process. It kept me more. It was a movie that pulls you in. This film does a very effective job in doing that. And like I was saying before, that's because it concentrates fully on the investigation. There's a lot of movies of this nature, they will talk about pointless, useless subplots that they fit in there. As if a studio going, oh, we need a love story. We need this. So it's oh, this relationship isn't working out. Maybe it'll work out. Or it's stress of the job. Or it's, oh, they're not getting along well with their father. Or their kids hate them. Or they're having problems, struggles of other nature. No. As you see, the sun's rising, as it's getting brighter as I talk about this movie. But that was the right choice in this instance. Because again, I'm going to repeat myself, but a lot of films put these subplots you don't need, and sometimes you're like, just take them out. And this film is 100% on the investigation. Phone calls. I can. I don't need it that bright. The investigation, the making phone calls, what phone calls don't lead to another person that they interview. Then they interview some people and they get door slammed in their face. They interview other people and they have to keep pushing and pushing to get every little bit of info that they could out of it. Once in a while, Robert Redford sees the secretive, shadowy informant known as Deep Throat. And of course, when you say that name, you think of porno, or the porn film Deep Throat, or a porn where someone's deep throating another. So the name doesn't hold up, but that's what it was called in real life back in the day. I guess in more innocent-minded times in a way. Maybe that's the wrong word to use, but I'm just saying nowadays, when you think of Deep Throat, you think of porn. But back then, that's the name of the informant. And that's actually played by Hal Holbrook, which was cool. He's been in John Carpenter's The Fog. He was in this really underrated film called Rituals. And once in a while, Robert Redford, like I said, talks with him in this garage. And it's this gradual process of finding out information and being told one thing and find out they're lying full of shit about another. And at times the Washington Post gets shit on by the people of higher power on TV. And as the film goes on, Jason Robards is like, you know what, let's stick with our guys. There's a moment where he writes on a piece of paper, just doesn't say anything, gives it to them, to the other people in the room, and says, no, let's stick with our story. And I thought that was a nice process where the guy who you think would be the stickler and the first guy to say stop, as the movie goes on, he's really becomes the guy rooting for him the most. I thought that was nicely done. And I did really like Jason Robards' character. Jason Robards, he's been in quite a few stuff. Something Wicked This Way Comes, among other movies. And I think the film, sadly, would not work for a new generation only because I just see, I have to wonder if younger people would be bored with this movie. I didn't find this boring at all. I mean, usually I'm the guy that talks about pacing and a movie being boring. This to me did it very effective because even though it's 2 hours and 18 minutes, I never got bored. And I think because in a weird way, it doesn't slow down. Because it's always this piece of investigation, this piece of investigation. Once in a while, there's a fun bit of humor. These two worked well together. They were natural in their performances. There's nothing overbearing, nothing overacting wise. And it felt real in a way. The way they handled themselves in the newspaper office, the environment in the newspaper office, the way it was in the 70s, which was a different climate in today's age. Even like weird stuff I noticed, like at one time they're eating McDonald's. I just noticed like the old school McDonald's logos of the stuff they were eating. So it's a nice sort of window into the past, the day before computers and cell phones. I mean, they're typing on a typewriter. And there's even a point in the film where they're wondering if their room is bugged and they're under surveillance, so they have to talk to each other by typing on a typewriter. So one types one thing, the other types another. And in a way, it's a nice suspense, even though you know how it ends. I mean, you know that by the end of it, Nixon resigns, things of that nature. But it's this sort of nice, okay, are they going to get the info? Where they don't get the info? They're talking to this person. Is the person going to reveal the information? Or are they going to be fucked around some more? A lot of times where it's, again, these guys trying to push to get every kernel, every inch, every tablespoon or teaspoon, every minuscule part of information to help them build it up more and more. And like I said, there's some really nice pieces of direction, like in the ending where the both of them are typing their story, and then next to them is a TV that other people are watching of Nixon winning his other term. And I thought that was a nice sort of juxtaposition. I'm not sure if juxtaposition is the right word for it. I might be thinking of a different word. But it's nice. The reason I like it is because as this guy wins his second term for 4 more years, ironically enough, we're also seeing these guys typing what will be Nixon's destruction, so to speak. Then once the story publishes, I think it's like a year or so later, maybe less, Nixon resigns. And it's a nice tale about the freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And it's also a nice piece of history that is being told in just an old school classic manner. And that's the thing, like, yeah, I enjoy action, fight scenes, explosions, gore, big laughs as much as anybody. Believe me, I do. I'm not against movies that are just solid filmmaking, but they just have to be done well. And that right there is subjective for everybody. And to me, this was done very well. It was done wonderfully. The first time I saw it, I can't remember if the first time I saw it was on cable or I can't remember. But I think even then I'm like, oh, I don't know, 2 hours and 18 minutes. But then when I watch, I'm like, this is pretty damn good. This is really good. I don't know. I have to assume there's a Blu-ray of this. I think, like I mentioned before, with a better picture quality and with some special features. I would think there is. I mean, this is a double-sided. One's widescreen, one's full screen. And I like these snapper cases. I do like them. because it makes it feel sturdy. It's funny, a lot of the films I've been reviewing recently have been Warner Brothers stuff, like Action Jackson, this film. There's another film I'll review sometime soon. That's Warner Brothers. That wasn't on purpose. But yeah, I don't know what more I can say because it'd just be repeating myself. But yeah, wonderful story that was well told, solid direction, wonderful cast, terrific performances by these two guys. It's just such a intriguing story that it's a great movie that pulls you into the story. It makes you wonder what lead is going to go to where. So when David Shipman says of cinema the first 100 years, an extremely exciting detective story, I definitely agree with that. It's not exciting in the fact you did foot chases, car chases, things. It's exciting for the mind to make you, maybe in a way make you think, but make you just fascinated on what reporters do and what reporters' jobs are, and just how the levels of this conspiracy get uncovered more and more and more. You know, from different phone calls, and this woman says she knows something, and a minute later, oh no, I was wrong. Actually, I don't even know the person at all. Or, like I said, some fun bits of humor, like Robert Redford trying to call someone, and the guy's like speaking Spanish, and he's like, "Does anyone know Spanish?" Like, or they talk to this woman, and they think they're interviewing her, and then they realize it's the wrong woman. Same last name, different first name, so they went to the wrong person. So there's subtle bits of humor, but at the same time, a lot of good dramatic stuff to it. And I do mention that Jason Robards. I like one of the speeches he has at the end where he's talking to the two guys and he tells them to run the story. And he did a much better job delivering this line than I could. But he says something to the effect of, "Oh, what was it? I don't want to get the line wrong. I'll probably still get it wrong, but it's something to the effect of, oh, there's nothing writing on this except the First Amendment, the freedom of the press, and the future of the country. That stuff doesn't matter. You fuck up again, I'll be mad." Like, the way he did it was a lot funnier than again I could. Yeah, a great classic filmmaking that they don't do a lot of this anymore. And especially one, I keep harping on this, that literally just focuses strictly on the investigation. Because yeah, there'd be so many. Uh, you could easily see a movie like this devolving into, well, being weaker by going into what is Woodward's girlfriend at the time and blah 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 blah. And right, I know this is based on a true story, but again, they embellish stuff when they adapt movies. And you didn't need that junk. You didn't need that filler. And I appreciate it for that. So, wonderful movie, great piece of filmmaking, and one of the many examples that shows I don't just like action and horror movies. Those are my two favorite genres, but I also enjoy pieces of cinema like this. All the President's Men. If you've never seen it, highly suggest you check it out. It's well worth a look. Thanks for watching, and we will see you later.